Yo guys, welcome back. Today we'll be updating our Bunny builds. With the recent patch, Bunny has seen some pretty big changes with buffs to her Electric Condense build for, well, probably the sixth time here, and she now has a gun build like every other Descendant in the game. These will be the two builds I'm going to cover in today's video. I personally am a big fan of our high voltage build, but they really did it no justice, which I found highly disappointing. But overall, the changes to Bunny are good. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. So let's start out with the Bunny Gunny build here. And this is going to be, please, as I state, with a ancestor mod with 500% crit rate. Now, this is no god roll here. It doesn't have crit damage on it. So to many people, this will just be absolute piece of trash. But I'm specifically using this because it has so much crit rate that I do not have to build into as much crit rate in other places. I will show a build with lower crit rate on the ancestor mod once we go through this one. Now, the trigger mod is the new trigger mod, Electric Display, and this is specifically used for the round recovery. You move, you maintain movement, and you get rounds. And it's that simple. Instead of building it into her kit, they simply just made this into a trigger mod. And then we are using Electric Link, and this is what is changing her build into a gun build. And you'll see this is going to be very similar to most of the gun builds we have seen on the game. Her one thrill bomb is going to give you fire rate. That's probably what the most important thing is here. The firearm attack is kind of just really doesn't do anything because about 98% of her damage is coming from her skill damage and not from the gun at all. Then with her second ability, Bolt Maneuver, just like her sprint, like she had, but it's more based on not sprinting. So like strafing while shooting, movement speed while not aiming, movement speed while aiming, and stuff like that. And that's basically what that does. But this also gives you the buff that you need for Electric Display to work. And then we have Induced Electric. And what does this do? We shoot, we hit enemy, does an AoE circle around enemy that hits other enemies. This all started with Serena, and now we've seen it on Inez, Valby, and so on. And then her fourth ability is the kick, which is actually pretty cool in my opinion. I've already used this more than I ever used her old fourth ability, the beam. Just way more fluid, way more, it's just better in general, and hits pretty hard. So using this into the build for boss fights and stuff is actually really great. Now, for the build, looks very similar to every other build that we've been building on the game, because this is the setup now. Everybody's a crit descendant, everybody's a gun descendant. We build into the same things. MP conversion, nimble figures, 2 focus mods, right? We need all the cooldown we can get. And then, of course, we have our ancestor mod, which is much crit rate as we can get. Now, being that I have so much crit rate, I don't need to use something like skill insight. So I'm able to use electric integration with emergency measures and skill concentration, which is going to give me the most damage possible. Then we want our 2 range mods because Bunny does have a ton of range, and we're going to go with skill expansion and amplification control. If you are running Onslaught, the range is actually not as necessary. So in Onslaught, I would suggest taking out amplification control and simply just putting in an HP mod to do yourself a favor and do your teammates a favor. So you're not on the ground, you don't all wipe, and then you're all yelling at each other. So let's talk about working around an ancestor mod that maybe just is not 500% critical hit rate. And you kind of do have to take a bit of a damage hit here, but not necessarily, because most likely you may have a critical hit rate mod that has some critical hit damage on it. So let's see what I have here in my inventory. So I'll start out with this mod, this ancestor mod I have here, which is about 400% critical hit rate, and it's got some singular on it, which isn't too bad for this build, being that this is all a singular build. So let's see where we are critical hit wise with that mod in. And we're at 84.36%. So we're pretty close to being there. Simply the answer here is going to be put in skill insight. And we are at 100% already just with that alone. Let's try out some other mods though. All right, so with this one, we went from about a 400% critical hit rate to about a 350, right? And I still have skill insight in here. And we'll see that I'm at 95.6%, which is still pretty good. But if you did want to hit that 100%, I know I haven't gone over the arcade tuning yet, but this is going to be the arcade tuning tree. And very simply, I would just unslot these and slot in these 2 right here. and that's going to already make up the critical hit rate. We're at 99.435, which is basically perfect for the build. So my general statement here for an ancestor mod is aim for the 350% range, and then maybe with some good damage stats on it. You could probably find some of those pretty cheap, or you may have already rolled some to this point. Now for the RK tuning, which I just had up, we're going with defense neutralization, and we're going with electric chain catalyst. There's nothing better than this. There's no better option to be had. I'm sorry, I still have the critical hit rate here. If you don't need the critical hit rate, I would just simply take the crit damage and some more skill power. All right, let's go over the rest of the build, and we're going with electric singular, cooldown crit damage on our reactor. And here, of course, we have the Slayer set, and, you know, make sure you have your MP stats here. It is very important. She does eat up a decent amount of MP. Speaking of MP, your fellow, get the MP fellow on, and then in your inversion reinforcement, you can get selective neurostimulation, which is also going to help you with MP. Pain suppression for the heal when you get below half health, and then I just take the range to make up the rest of the missing range that we are in need of. If you don't want the range, adrenaline surge is actually a good option for movement speed while she's strafing with a gun, so you could use that as well. Now the important part, the weapons. There's a good amount of just decent weapons, I would say, but the two that I'm going with here are the Typhoon. I think in mobbing, nothing's better than this with her. Just like a lot of other Descendants, we've seen it with Valby. Really, really good gun. You don't have to hard aim at anything. You just spray forward and it works. And the build is not much different than what we've ever used. We got our fire rate core, our electric cores, critical hit damage, and then for our substats, crit rate, crit damage, electric attack, multi-hit chance. And same thing coming in here with the mods. Basically the same thing I used on Valby. The only change I made here is we didn't need the extra ammo, so I just threw in another electric priority mod. But let me state here, once again, the guns are not doing much damage at all. This is about a 98% skill damage build. So if you simply just put fire rate, veil analyzer, and brisk walk in your weapon, you're going to be just fine. And then for our thunder cage, same thing here. Your fire rate is the most important thing. She's doing all skill damage, so fire rate cores, get those in. Sprint speed, yes. The substats here, ignore the chill. I would just roll that electric if you really wanted. Multi-hit chance, multi-hit damage. You can do critical hit rate, critical hit damage. I do not have this min-max at all because, like I said, she's doing mostly skill damage. And then same setup here, brisk walk. Make sure you got your fire rate, and past that, I mean, this is simply just a stat stick. If you want, check your stats when you finish your run. You'll see that 98% skill damage here. All right, let's get into the Electric Condense build. We're using Electric Condense. Still a very powerful build, especially buff like 6 times at this point. And still a great hard-hitting 4th ability. Even better now. Double hits, so when you use it, it hits once, then you use it again, it hits again, even harder. The rest of the build is basically the same. Sprint, use her 3, use her 1. Everything's fusion now, so everything procs Blue Beetle, which is really nice. We're using Golden Ensemble. I like this specifically for the range, and I don't think we need any extra damage. Does give a little skill power increase, but this is really great just to get some range on her that we're not going to get in the build. You can still use Infected Weapon. You can still use Power Beyond. You can even use the new Gunner mod if you wanted, Trigger mod, because it's going to give you MP, and then you just don't have to worry about MP. For the rest of the build, double focus mods, MP conversion, nimble fingers, and then we are using skill concentration, electric integration for the damage, skill expansion for the range, and then emergency measures for the crit rate, the crit damage. Then after that, we get to the ancestor mod, and this is where the puzzle begins, right? I have a 400% crit rate ancestor mod in, so that is going to put me at 85%, but I'm using Blue Beetle, and that's going to finish the job that I need to get the rest of that crit rate, and I'm at 100%. It's basically perfect with that percentage that you have in. If you have something less, that's why we have this open slot. You could put in skill insight. You could take out electric integration and put the other crit mod in front lines if you need to get it there. So this could be a flex spot. You can use HP. You can use MP collector if you like. Sometimes I just put that in because I don't want to care about getting orbs. And that's really the build. That's it. Everything's fusion now. So of course, we're going with Electric Fusion. We were basically doing that anyway with Electric Condense just to make the Electric Condense hit harder. Cooldown, crit damage, and I'm using the Slayer set. I don't really see a reason not to use the Slayer set at this point. There is another option where you can gain some more cooldown and a little more skill cost. And that would be doing something like this. You're going to do the 2-piece ascending. Now you want to put these in the spots. This is going to give you the most HP. You're going to get the 2-piece ascending with the 2-piece hunter. That's going to give you some more cooldown, be able to throw your electric condense out more often. And then also the skill cost never hurts on Bunny. So you just know you're constantly sprinting. Worst thing on Bunny is running out of MP, and then you're not sprinting. RK tuning. I'm running the exact same setup that I was running on the gunning build. Same thing here though. If you needed to get a little more crit rate, take out a crit damage, take out a skill power, get yourself some crit rate here. For our weapon, we're running Blue Beetle, sprint speed core, grappling core. I don't even have the rest of this build. Doesn't matter. I don't shoot it. And then I just carry Hypernova with me just in case. Need to break a shield and onslaught or something if you're going to run that build in there. And then for our fellow, we're going to get the MP fellow, of course, but we don't need anything else other than MP. And same setup here for the inversion reinforcement. I take the range. She doesn't need the sprint speed with this build, so we don't have to worry about adrenaline surge. You could get the cooldown if you want to spam some more electric condense. That doesn't hurt. And then we're taking selective store neurostimulation for the MP, and then pain suppression for the HP. And that covers everything for our updated Bunny builds. Any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comments. Of course, I still stream this game pretty much every day on Twitch, among other games. There is probably a lack of build videos coming from me because I just find the build variety to be very lacking in this game. And also the things to do with the builds are just not very inspiring in my opinion. So that's why you don't see many build videos by me. But if you ever need help with builds or running content, I basically stream the game every day on Twitch, and I'm happy to help there with builds and getting through content like the Abyss Colossus, doing your weekly onslaught runs and so on. So just come over there, like and subscribe is appreciated. Thanks guys. Peace.